Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.
What does it mean to be a gifted child?
One who is expected to do better than average in the academic setting, 2 standard deviations above the norm as far as IQ goes, or exceptional achievement in reading or math.
And what are Latchkey children?
He stands for the child who wears a key latched around their neck, and that key is their home.
Hello everyone, I'm Rob Hinton.
And I'm Genevieve Stewart. Today on Folks, we'll have 2 reports focusing on children. First, we'll take a look at the Gifted and Talented program in the Lafayette Parish Public School System. And then, we'll take a look at another program especially designed for children called Latchkey.
To close our show today, we'll travel to New Orleans and tell you about some of the notable blacks buried in St. Louis Cemetery No. 2. All of that today on Folks.
Everybody says folks, just plain old folks. Everybody's just people all over the world. Those who live, both got to give, both got to care, both got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, who touches us all? To stay alive, just to survive, both got to be in harmony. Everybody just folk, just plain old folk, just plain old folk. Everybody's just folk, everybody just folk, just plain old folk, just plain old folk. Everybody's just folks.
Today on Folks, we're going to take a look at some special programs for children. We begin in Lafayette by taking a look at a program designed especially for young and gifted students. There are close to 600 children in the Gifted and Talented program in the Lafayette Parish Public Schools system, beginning with preschool age through high school. The program caters to the academically gifted. What does it mean to be a gifted child?
In our program, we're only working with academically gifted children. There are many forms of gifted. There's talented and physically gifted, but this program is set up to serve the academically gifted child. That is one who is expected to do better than average in the academic setting, 2 standard deviations above the norm as far as IQ goes, or exceptional achievement in reading or math.
So how does a parent know if his or her child is gifted?
There's a testing program throughout the parish. All children who rank on their SRA score, their standard scores, above the 90th percentile should be tested for the gifted program. And the classroom teachers go through their files at the end of the year and recommend students, or they can be identified throughout the year too.
In addition to testing, there are other qualities to look for.
Some gifted children are strong leaders in the classroom, relate very well to other students, and get along exceptionally well. Others are rather shy and introverted. I think that gifted children are like everyone else as far as personality characteristics. Some are very highly creative. That's something that we look for, the one who has a different answer to the question, not always the one that the teacher had in mind, but something that is logical in their mind.
The Gifted program in the Lafayette Parish Public Schools system provides the students and parents with 2 options: academic acceleration or academic enrichment.
Academic acceleration program starts for the most part in the 6th grade here at Paulboro. They can transfer here as a magnet school. And we offer science, math, social studies, reading, language, or French. And then in addition to that, they take their PE and whatever elective they choose to take, like band or chorus, or speech, with the regular student body. So they're mixed. Part of the time they're in advanced classes, and part of the time they're on peers.
Here we are visiting the Gifted and Talented program housed at the Paulboro School. The students here call their program Project Think.
Our junior high program had decided they needed a name. They were feeling a little uncomfortable being the gifted program all the time. So we had a contest, and the children decided that they would be Project Think, which is an acronym for Talented Humans Investigating New Knowledge. And then they used the word puzzles using the word think. and there are 5 in here. At the top, it's think for yourself. This one is think about it. This one's think it over. Think twice. And then if you think of this as a bubble showing what the think is thinking about, it's think ahead. And this is our logo and an acronym for our program. In the primary grades, those students are labeled high potential rather than gifted up to the 3rd grade, and we have another program called the Wonder Whys that sort of ties in with their curious questioning attitude and always asking and being highly interested.
What roles do the teachers and the parents play in the development of a gifted child?
I think that a gifted child, like everyone else, I think their primary need for so long and all the way through high school is for affection and understanding and communication. With a gifted child, sometimes that understanding means that they need a wider variety of activities, earlier exposure to some higher level thinking skills that challenge them and interest them before it would another child. But most of all, I think they need to be treated with love and talked to and encouraged.
And what about other needs?
I think they need to be challenged at their own rate, which is a need that a regular child has, but that's met in different ways for a gifted child. I think they also need to be understood that sometimes they reach that age of questioning and doubting and understanding themselves at a younger age. Sometimes that period that many students go through in high school, the gifted child will begin to go through in upper elementary or junior high. And we found a need to address that problem. There's a lot of questioning and doubting sometimes in a gifted child at a younger age.
And how does the environment in the gifted and talented program differ from the attention that a student might get in a private institution?
I have a strong feeling that gifted children need more than straight acceleration. And in some schools, apparently there is an acceleration component in some private schools that is very good. And, but in addition to that, we have acceleration 4 days a week, and 1 day a week we have this enrichment program. And that's part of what you'll see today too. The computer lab is part of our enrichment program, which works on higher level thinking skills. We do a minimum amount of computer literacy and go directly with the 4th graders into writing programs and graphics. They have a strong art program for the creatively gifted child. We have a program with dramatics. We do a lot of plays, a lot of Hamlet, Shakespeare, then some comedies, some that they make up. They make up their own soap operas, and we have dinner time theaters where we invite the parents and the other students in. And we feel like that the performing arts and the communication arts are as strong a need as the computers, because if they can learn to communicate what they know, that's a large part of what they'll need in life.
One criticism of gifted and talented programs is that they tend to promote superiority attitudes among the children.
I feel that that's not a problem, and I know that that is a criticism of the gifted program nationally. I feel that that problem is more on the people on the outside looking in. I don't see that occasionally, and I'm not going to say never, occasionally we'll have somebody who is cocky, and that's a problem in life, no matter whether they're gifted or whatever. A cocky individual is obnoxious sometimes, but that is not a characteristic of our program. Within the program, they can't be on top. So I think it's a humbling experience very often for most of them.
The YMCA's Latchkey Child Development Program is both before and after school supervision for the children of working parents. Latchkey provides a multitude of activities, and it is certainly the answer for working parents who are concerned about leaving children to their own resources and unattended in the home. Latchkey programs are relatively new to Louisiana, although they have been in existence in other areas for 20 years. This particular program is conducted at the Pennington YMCA in Baton Rouge. Director Nancy Etheridge explains the term Latchkey children.
Okay, Latchkey is a term developed by a gentleman who is working in California. And Latchkey stands for the child who wears a key latched around their neck, and that key is their home, the key that opens their door to their home. Because the parents or someone is not there when school gets out, so they would walk home and unlock the door and go inside and watch TV or whatever until Mother came home.
She further stated the need for latchkey programs.
I think that when a child is not attended to, they don't know what to do with their time, and they become mischievous, and they get into things they shouldn't get into because they're trying to be creative with their time. They're spending all their time watching TV or listening to the radio or looking. In fact, some children will cause trouble to get attention because they're not getting it, and they'll get it here.
How does the latchkey program differ from daycare or a babysitting situation?
The biggest difference I find is that we're not just babysitting. We are trying to reach this child's need. The purpose of the YMCA is to develop people totally in their mind, in their spirit, and their body. And in our program, we try to achieve those goals of providing activities for them, physical activities. We play games every day. They're organized, they're structured in sports. We do arts and crafts, which stimulates their creativity and their mind. We also provide a homework time, and if the children don't have homework, we'll provide creative challenges to stimulate their mind. The atmosphere is a very loving atmosphere. The counselors are trained to meet the children's need, to talk to them as people, to ask them, how's their day? How do you feel? And it's not a matter of just dropping their kid off and they do what they want or color or play with blocks and just to occupy their time, as we were trying to get to these children and develop them.
Nancy Etheridge begins her day before 7 a.m. when the first children begin arriving for the morning program. This WISE program serves children from grades kindergarten through 5. Parents bring their children to the morning session, and the WISE van takes them to school.
Children are brought to the Y by their parents, and so they will be coming on gradual, one to come, then two, and so forth. And when they first come here, we take the time to find out how they're doing, you know, what you have for breakfast, what you're doing at school, so we get to have that personal contact with them, deal with their values and what if they have any decisions to make that day. And we open the equipment closet and get the balls out and the kickballs and basketballs and so forth, and they'll play on their own, and we're there to play with them. And as more children come, we will organize games. So we usually get 2 games in the morning before we have to take them to school.
In the afternoon, Nancy picks up the students from nearby schools. They are usually restless, rambunctious, and full of news from their day. So the ride in the van is often jolly and noisy. In addition to games and sports, the Latchkey program teaches children about health and nature. The counselors work with the children on an individual basis, with both homework and their emotional development.
When they first come here, we give them the opportunity to have some free play. They've been at school all day, they've tired of sitting, been tired of being told what to do, so we do give them the opportunity to run around and get that energy going. Then we provide a snack, and after snack time, we divide them up into, right now, 2 groups according to their age, and provide some type of physical activity. That be a game or sport. And then after that, we go into a study time. And often if the children don't have homework, it will be combined with an arts and craft type of activity. We like to calm them down into a more controlled atmosphere so that when their parents come here, they won't be all wound up. One thing we do is to keep the program from getting boring to the children, we create themes. So like this week might be Olympic week, and next week might be Carnival week. And we also take the idea of each day as a specific activity. Monday might be arts and crafts, and Tuesday would be nature, and Wednesday would be games, so that there will be a variety.
What has the response from the parents been?
They love it. They really do. When they come in each week and pick up their kid, they say, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing a good job. I've got my son's in Boy Scouts, and they're having a Boy Scout camp next week, but they want to come here, you know, and things like that. I have people requesting that we go to other schools. You know, when are you going to come to our school? And then again, it's transportation. So it is a positive. In fact, we had one girl drop out because there was an opening at another center. She was there 2 weeks and came back. So that says something.
If interested parents wanted to begin a Latchkey program in their area, how would they proceed?
One thing they can do is to check and see if there is a YMCA in their area, because this Latchkey program is a national YMCA program. They can do that first. Second would be to check with other organizations, see if they run a day camp or any of those type services, because it is a feed off from that. Another would be to check with the principal at their school to see if they'd be willing to provide some classrooms after school for the program. A key would be to get someone who has a facility who's interested.
There is a nominal fee that parents must pay to help cover the salaries of staff members. Often the snacks are donated by local merchants and parents who want to contribute more to this unique child development program. Since the Latchkey program is housed at the Y, the facilities are excellent, equipment costs are minimal, and staff members are very enthusiastic.
We have a ratio of 10 to 1, and that would be one paid counselor with the children. And those paid people are usually college students who are in the field of education or something, recreation possibly. Then we also have a junior leaders program, which is a high school program. And these children work on a volunteer basis, and in return we are training them to be counselors for the future.
To receive information about the Latchkey program, you can call your local YM or YWCA. If your Y doesn't have an after-school program, you may want to inquire about starting one. Nancy Etheridge thinks your children will certainly be enriched by the experience.
To compare the children in Latchkey to children that do not attend a Latchkey program and what their behavior would be at school is something I think that the school could tell us. They could keep up with the statistics. I do not know of any statistics at this point that would give us that information. My own opinion would be that they would be more well-rounded and that they would have a healthy outlook on life.
We're now going to take you on a tour of St. Louis Cemetery number 2 in New Orleans. Now, one area of the cemetery contains what some people believe is the largest number of monuments noting the achievements and struggle of blacks during the 19th century. St. Louis Cemetery number 2 was the 4th cemetery in New Orleans, but today it is the 2nd oldest surviving one. The cemetery was laid out in 3 squares. Square number 3 was set aside for black Catholics. You see, by the 1820s, church authorities were beginning to agree to the Anglo-American segregation order. And in 1824, they set aside a wall of tombs by race, 30 for blacks and 30 for whites. By the 1850s, most of the vaults and available lots for tombs had been sold to individual families. This crypt, or oven as they are often called, was owned by a family which came from Haiti. They were among the wave of refugees that swelled the numbers of free black population of New Orleans in the 1790s. This tomb was among the first in the cemetery. The names of the first persons entombed are noted on the original plaque. Tombs like this one were especially built for a more wealthy family by a local builder according to specification. This is one of the many society tombs. Benevolent societies provided certain benefits to their dues-paying members: sick relief, family death benefits, and burial in a tomb owned by the society. Hundreds of people could be buried in such a tomb over a 50-year period. This society was begun by Civil War veterans and their widows. Although music was frequently associated with funerals, it wasn't until the end of the 19th century that some of these societies began to support and nurture the tradition of jazz in New Orleans by hiring a marching band to provide a jazz funeral for their members. Before this tomb was sold to the LeBlanc Mansion family, it belonged to the family of Constantine de Berg. After the Civil War, he was the conductor of a Philharmonic orchestra. One of his fellow black classical musicians, Edward Dede, went to Europe and served as the director of the Alcazar Orchestra in France. Julian Du Jour came from Haiti and was adopted by the Raphael family. He was a slater, one of the many skilled crafts dominated by black artisans in New Orleans. A local historian wrote about him for a different reason. The historian said however much money he earned, he gave it to the needy and the poor. The white, the black, the yellow were all the same in his eyes. Such a man should not be forgotten. This inscription is written in Spanish. Translated, it says, "Here lies Pedro Sierre, native of Havana, Cuba, born on the 4th of December, 1856, died on the 4th of May, 1877. Where most blacks spoke either English or French, some, like Sierre, came to New Orleans from Cuba or some other Spanish possession in the Caribbean. According to church records, some 23 people were buried in this vault. You see, when a new coffin was inserted, the old one was pulled out and burned, and the remains of the previous corpse were pushed to a chamber in the rear where they fell to the ground. This method of burial not only allowed people to be buried above the swampy soil of New Orleans, but it also conserved real estate in the land-scarce city. Many people believe the legend that this is the final resting place of Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen. Church records indicate, however, that the legend is close to the truth. Laveau is buried in this wall of crypts, but not here. The records show that she was buried a few rows down on October 6, 1890, at the age of 75. Next to Laveau is the tomb of Jordan Noble. He was a soldier here in Louisiana, the only southern state to allow blacks to serve in the state militia. Long before his death, Noble had become a symbol of the Battle of New Orleans, having served under Andrew Jackson. He often took part in parades with his original drum on the annual commemoration of that battle. Around this tomb is an example of the work of black artisans who produce much of the beautiful handicrafted ironwork that dominates the older areas of New Orleans. The role of black artisans in this field are documented in a booklet written by Marcus Christian entitled Negro Ironworkers in Louisiana. Julian Naba was an 18th century African. He was among the many black people who came to New Orleans in the slave trade and maintained their old world customs longer here than in any other part of the country. Rodolphe de Dunn was the son of a Haitian father and Cuban mother. His widely acclaimed book, Our People and Our History, is an outstanding historical account of noteworthy free people of color and their descendants in the Crescent City. Myrtil Courcelle was a very wealthy businessman and real estate broker who made loans to black and white New Orleanians. His estate was worth more than $36,000 at the time of his death in 1872. In today's dollars, that sum would be 10 times that amount. The Rousseff family is an outstanding one in the New Orleans area. Descendants of this family can trace their roots back to veterans of the War of 1812. Subsequent generations have been active in New Orleans and elsewhere as educators, historians, artists, and architects. This is the tomb of Basil Crocker. He was educated in Paris and was a skilled mathematician. He was said to have been one of New Orleans' best swordsmen who trained both blacks and whites at his fencing academy. Oscar Dunn was one of the most powerful politicians of the Reconstruction era. In 1868, he was elected Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana. He was widely respected for his honesty and convictions. He died suddenly in 1871, leading some people to suspect that he had been poisoned. In this tomb are buried two of the children of P.B.S. Pinchback. Pinchback succeeded Dunn as lieutenant governor, and for several months he was the governor of Louisiana, the only black man in history to serve as governor of a state. Antoine Dubuclet was a member of the free black planter class. He owned large holdings of land and slaves. His property in Iberville Parish was valued at $206,000 in 1860. He was a leading black Republican during Reconstruction and served as state treasurer from 1868 through 1879. This is the tomb of the Sisters of the Holy Family, a religious order of Catholic nuns established by free women of African descent back in 1842 in New Orleans. They perform educational and charitable works among people of their race. The order now operates in other areas of the United States, as well as in Central America and Africa. More than 200 of its members have been interred in this cemetery. Marie Cuvan was a native of Guinea. She was once a slave, but married a free black carpenter who later died, leaving her property and his savings. Part of her estate was used to establish a Catholic school for orphans. The school exists today as Holy Redeemer. Arthur Estevz was born in Haiti. He came to New Orleans as an infant and eventually set up one of the first sail-making businesses in the city. He acted as the president of the Citizens Committee that brought the Plessy versus Ferguson case to the Supreme Court in 1896. He also headed the company that published the militant New Orleans newspaper, The Crusade, which protested the denial of civil rights for black people at the end of the 19th century. Jean-Baptiste Routenay was a key figure in the organized efforts of black New Orleanians to secure the right to vote. He initiated a national campaign for the right of black people to vote, and in 1864 delivered a petition containing 5,000 signatures towards its cause to President Lincoln. This is the tomb of the Society of the 10 Sacred Brothers. It was founded in 1845 and is believed to be the oldest society tomb in Square 3. This benevolent association continued to bury members in this tomb well into this century. The Cassinet family was one of the wealthiest in the black community in the 19th century. One member of the family owned real estate and a thriving undertaking business worth $100,000 in 1814. James Lewis was the founder of this benevolent society noted on the front of this tomb. He was one of the state's most powerful blacks during the Civil War and the Reconstruction period. He was one of the small group of black men to serve as an officer in the Union Army and was a captain until 1864 when all black officers in Louisiana were dismissed. During Reconstruction, he became a captain in the state militia. And this is the tomb of Eugene Rapp. He too was an officer during the Civil War, but of a Confederate militia unit in New Orleans made up of black officers and soldiers. That's our program for this week. Thanks for watching.
Next week on Folks, we'll take a look at some black-owned and operated radio stations.
Until then, make it a good week.
Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.